Oh, it's only gonna rain it down.
That jingle there signifying, of course, once again, another reading from the Diary of Carl Pilkington. Now, of course, for those of you who have not been keeping abreast of Carl's medical complaints, just bring us up to speed, Carl. You had to go into hospital this week, because previously you'd had...
I've been in and out, honestly, I've been in and out of that hospital, just with kidney problems, really painful and what have you. And,
you had kidney stones, alright?
No, but seriously.
Monday. I had a bit of a lie-in today, because I have to get up early for my operation tomorrow. Not only have I got to have tubes shoved up my knob, but I also have to get up at 5:50. Suzanne said I could have what I want for my last dinner. It's not your last dinner, you're going for an operation.
Yeah, but you can't take things for granted these days.
Oh,
I had shepherd's pie and peas. Suzanne made it from scratch. As nice as it was annoying. Because making stuff from scratch means loads of pots, and it's my job to do the washing up. So much as the food was nice, there was loads of pans and that. People who get their last dinner on death row don't have to wash up. Got up at 5:55. You were supposed to be getting up at 5:50 on the other page. You were 5 minutes late getting up.
He's often late.
Often late.
No, just because I needed to have water. Before 6 o'clock, they said, don't have anything after 6.
We'll get up at 5:50 then, like you were planning to.
Don't
you had 5 minutes sleeping.
Doesn't take 10 minutes to have water, though, does it?
Well, why did you say 5:50 in the first time?
Because then it tricks me head, doesn't it? Going, oh, I had an extra 5 minutes.
Tricks me head. Because then it tricks me head.
It... Got to the hospital and had to wait in the waiting room. There was another 9 people in there waiting to be sorted. I got called in. They sat me on a bed and took all my details down. 5 minutes later, I'd been knocked out. I got woke up when they were ripping a pipe out of my throat. I felt more rough this time. The doctor came to see me and said he couldn't find a stone, so I must have passed it. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, we filled your kidney with water and expanded it, and there was no hiding place. I sat in the recovery room for an hour while they found me a bed. One of the fellows who was sat in the room with me this morning got wheeled in. They couldn't wake him up. All the nurses were laughing because he didn't want to wake up. I bet they were laughing at me when I was in the theatre. Someone told me they totally strip you when they're operating. I would have looked like the alien on the Boswell Incident.
Boswell! Boswell!
It's quite a nice analogy if it weren't for the fact that you said Boswell.
It's
the Roswell Incident. Didn't sleep much through the night because there was a 60-year-old fella shouting at the nurse about his pillows. I don't think I slept through a full hour with one thing or another going on. My bed was next to the toilet, so I kept hearing the flush.
How do they sleep in hospitals, though? They wake you up to give you fucking sleeping pills and things, don't they? How do you sleep in there? It's always hot. It's always like 90 degrees.
There's no air.
Is that to make you drink water?
I don't know what it is. There's no air. There was an old fella across from me who kept breaking wind. He didn't even try and cover it. He was just of that age where he didn't care. Just like, that's what I do. I'm in the hospital, leave me alone.
What do you mean?
Just, I don't know what was wrong with him. He's, I talked to him because at first I felt sorry for him. I was a little bit like, you know, he's had no visitors, no one's calling him up, so I'll talk to him. But then he got that familiar with me that he'd just be doing it whilst I'm chatting to him. Just like he's my granddad or something. It's just like, oh, that's what he does. It's like, well, I'm ill as well. Stop doing that. Honestly, unbelievable. He didn't even try and cover it with a cough. It was just like, that's...
With a cough? How would you cover it with a cough?
Just non-stop.
Got home and sat down. My pains are coming back, but the doctor said this would happen and that my insides are still in shock, so I need to take it easy. It's 9 o'clock. I'm in agony. I can't do the diary for the rest of the day.
Jesus.
So you may as well just tell us then what happened.
Right, well, yeah, after that, went back in. Suzanne just got frustrated with me because I was rolling about on the floor and she was trying to watch Arthur, right? So that was on the other night.
I thought it was with your lodger.
So,
and she said, look, if you're in pain, do something. She said, you know...
You went and got a cold plate.
Yeah. No, use an ashtray. Plates are for liver damage.
She said, right, come on. Let's, actually, I can't put up with this. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we left the flat and what have you. Got in a taxi. He filled up on the way, which was annoying.
He didn't.
That is cheeky.
That really, I mean, he could
on the way to the hospital.
So,
because he's not an ambulance driver.
Did you explain that to where you were going?
I was in that sort of thing where you just can't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? I was in sweat and stuff.
He came back with a scratch card and some barbecue
briquettes. Yeah.
So anyway, he gets us there and he doesn't charge us, which is pretty decent.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
So I go in and there's like, I don't know if you've been in like A&E. at like
Agree, my image.
2:30 in the morning. It's
Oh.
just depressing. Fluorescent light doesn't help because it makes everyone look iller than they actually are. So there was a woman who was just sat there crying. She wasn't holding onto any part of her body. She was just sat there whinging. And when you're feeling bad, you've got that going on. So you just want to tell her to shut up. There was a fella who was like moped over in a wheelchair that someone had just chucked in.
Moped over.
It looked like somebody had just sort of found him and wheeled him in.
Nurse? Who's the guy moped over?
So this gay fella came through. And,
How do you know he was gay?
just the way he was. I'm not having a go. He was a good fella. Do you know what I mean?
A doctor, you mean?
No, he was a nurse.
Right.
And he came through and just sort of went, "Oh, how are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I've had better days." So he got
As
me
you
on
mentioned in the diary, I remember the first time when I came here, they said the nurse might put a tablet up my arse. I thought the chances of that happening had just increased.
Oh, God!
Yeah, but I would have let him do it. Honestly, I was that sort of out of it. That
Of course you'd let him do it. He's a qualified nurse.
No, but the way I am now, say if it was just a tablet for sorting out my blood pressure, and I walked in there and he went, "Oh, hello," and he said, "Yeah, let's pop that." I'd go, "Hang on a minute." But what I mean is that night I would have just let him put 3 up. Honestly, it's just weird, isn't it? How your body just goes, let them get on with it, and you trust anyone, don't you? When you're in that much pain and you need
And they're a qualified nurse, yes.
they gave me some morphine, and my sort of head caved in again like last time, and then the pain went. But anyway, just turns out that I'd had a load of like blood clots in the bit from my kidney to my bladder, and that was acting as a sort of a stone again.
No, it's just,
So that's
it's just a scab, isn't it, where it's curing it? So.
No, but all the work, when they blew up the kidney 4 times its normal size, so there was no hiding place for the stone.
Yeah.
So when they did that, it caused a lot of blood. It must have ripped the sides of it and stuff. And then that blood was in the kidney, and it went down the pipe and blocked it up a little bit. And that's the pain that I had. It was sort of had problems getting through all this thick blood that they caused. So the weirdest thing that happened when I was in there, right? The morning like after I'd had the morphine and what have you, right? I slept pretty well, but I woke up and you have like a telly for your own bed that you're allowed to use if you pay for it, right? So the glow from that woke me up because they come on at about 7:10, and the telly's in front of your head, right? So you're getting this glow and you're going, "Oh, what's that now?" And I looked at it, and all it had written on it is, "Carl received bad news about your father." Right? And I was like, is this what they do now? Because it's such a big hospital, did they just text you sort of news to your bed? And I was kind of like, like I say, it was early, it was 7:10 or whatever. Thinking, what's going on? I didn't have my mobile. Suzanne took that. And I was looking at it, I read it again, I thought, it might come up with more, like, what's up with him? Turns out it was just a review for Neighbours. It just tells you... It tells you what's on the telly that day. And there's some fella in Neighbours who's called Carl, whose dad went bad. So that sort of woke me up a bit. I had a bit of a shock then. It was kind of like... So I was wide awake at like 7:15 in the morning because my heart went a bit fast because I thought something had happened to me dad.
Carl, of course, has written a poem about the experience entitled My Ward.
All I've done here, I've been through I don't know what the word is, a bad experience.
Trauma.
A trauma, yeah. I've been through a load of trauma. So I'm just finishing it off with a little sort of picture for people.
Go on then.
In my ward. I know it's called my ward. Me, a Chinese fella, and an old bloke who looked like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Don't know what was wrong with him, but breaking wind was the symptoms. No one visited him or called him. He seemed quite lost to me. As well as wind problems, he had a colostomy.
Bang.
When I left, I said, "See you" to the old man. Turned out the other fella wasn't Chinese, he was from Japan. I never found out what was up with him. You've got a little picture there, haven't you, of me sat in my ward. I'm sat there with that fella who I didn't talk to, the old fella who had wind problems. And that's what a poem is, isn't it?
But the detail about you thought he was Chinese and he turned out to be Japanese, how is that evocative? That's just a piece of misinformation.
It's just
I like it.
I imagine a lot of people make
I
that
like
same
it, because
mistake.
you know why? It's like, he even makes digressions within his poem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, he could have gone back and erased that, but he didn't. He left that digression in, and I think that's great.
It's very honest.
Yeah. So, you know, you've done quite a few bits there from the diary, right? The other week you were saying a diary to sort of be famous and what have you, it's got to have a big event in it. That's a big event in my life, right?
Mm.
Peeps did a diary that had big events in it. You said about the fire on Pudding Lane. I had a kidney stone here.
You write about puddings you've had.
So, is that as big as... Is that a proper diary thing?
It's a proper diary anyway.
I think, personally, the 5 or 6 pages you've written about your ill health are genuinely interesting, and I'm sure, in years to come, it will be an interesting evocation of the NHS in this modern age, and how it is, what it's like to be in hospital.
What other diaries are out there?
Well, a lot of them are fictional, of course, Bridget Jones and the like. There are lots of memoirs, but to publish a whole diary, I mean, you can
the two most famous diaries, I'd have thought, was Pepys and Anne Frank.
But
Yeah.
Kenneth Williams' diaries were published after his death. Many celebrity diaries have been published. Alec Guinness, people like that.
And is that just their last year, or did they do it when they were doing a lot? Because if they're old and sort of not working well, a diary isn't that good.
Well, often the moments, you know, prior to their passing are some of the most interesting. You see their final thoughts and final days.
Yeah, but you say different things when you're ill. When I was on that table about to go under and you're thinking this might be it, different thoughts on the world. Do you know what I mean? Different priorities.
What's the most profound thing that you thought that, you know, it was because of your illness?
Just as I went under, the last thing I said to this woman was, "Oh, you look different with that on." And
oh, you look different with a hat on.
yeah, it was the woman who gave me the injection, and she'd been round to the bed beforehand, sort of saying, "Right, you're allergic to this. Can you eat strawberries?" And I was a bit like, "Why are you asking me that?" And she went, "Well, no, a lot of people are allergic to strawberries." And I was saying, "But is there any trace of strawberries in the stuff?" And she's like, "No, it's just that a lot of people are." And I said, "Well, no, I eat them." And then she's like, "What about fish?" And I said, "I like some. I haven't had them all." And and then she turned to Suzanne at that point and said, "What do you know of anything you can't eat?" She sort of said,
like turning to the mother.
Yeah.
When the child can't answer.
but she was this woman, and she didn't have a hat on or anything. And then when I went down there, I didn't realise it was the same woman until I was lying there and she started to inject me, and I just said, "Oh, you look different with that on." And then I went out, and when I woke up, the woman sort of came round and just sort of said, "Oh, it's weird that was the last thing, like you said." And that made me think that could have been my last, you know, like fight 'em on the beaches or whatever. That could have been my little thing.
You look different with a hat on. Carl Pilkington.
Oh, God.
In its own way, it's quite wise. People do look different with hats on.
I think his last words would be something like, "Can this kill you?"
Yeah. Suzanne, can you drink bleach?